years, boy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Texas Sports World. I'm your host, Ethan, and we have a lot to discuss today. A lot of stuff is going on. A lot of stuff is about to go down. And as one of my friends likes to comment, back at it like a crack addict. I know we've been away for a minute, but we here again. We back again. So stick around. I hope you enjoy the show. I think I'm going to try to do. It's not going to be super long. We're going to talk about the NBA draft lottery that's tonight, 7:00 tonight. Be sure to check that out. The Rockets currently have pick number 9, but with the current odds, with the current odds, that should be, they have a 4% chance of getting number 1, Cooper Flag or bust, if you ask me. I know there's a couple other guys out there in the draft that the Rockets could use. But I think the backcourt is just too full for us to get a guard right now with Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, Reed Sheppard, just another guard just drafted last year. He's got $10 million on the books right now for the next 4 years, on top of whatever you end up paying Fred VanVleet if he does end up coming back, which is still kind of in some gray area right now. I think everybody's kind of just waiting for today. Once we figure out if the Rockets do end up getting a top 3 pick, then I think they'll stick and pick. And, I think that'll mean that Fred VanVleet will stay, because I think obviously that $44 million team option is a little bit rich for my blood, if you ask me. But I think that eventually, if they do end up drafting Cooper Flag, I think that would make it a lot easier for you to spend a little bit more money on Fred VanVleet, because he was very useful for us in the playoffs. Obviously, unfortunately, the Rockets lose in a 7 to the godforsaken Warriors. For whatever reason, they're like the one team we just can't get over. And everybody in the playoffs are like, why are the Rockets acting like they're about to win a championship or something? And a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand exactly. And also, I know I'm in my closet. I had to change. Just don't judge me too hard. I'm working on the outside area right now, and it's just a bunch of couches and boxes and stuff. So I wanted to be in here. Anyways, what was I talking about? I got distracted because I could see I got some jackets over here, but I got my other stuff out there. I got a desk and stuff, but anyways, I got distracted. So what was I talking about? The lottery. So, yes, the Warriors. We just cannot beat the Warriors. And so a lot of people got to understand that, we go down 3-1 and you think, okay, this is it. We're already like, how did we get here? We were number 2 seed in the West. You played the Warriors pretty well throughout the season. You have a lot of young guys, a lot of athleticism, a lot of, reasons to believe that this team could be very, very good, right? For whatever reason, Jalen Green decided to go not just be non-existent. And that's where, Fred VanVleet, what I was talking about earlier, became very useful, because in games 3 through 6, he went berserk. He went crazy. And, if and you look at it, Jalen Green had 38 or 39 in game 2. But I think he averaged like 9 to 12 for the rest of the series or something like that. And that's just not good enough. So, having Jalen Green, Reed Sheppard, Fred VanVleet, Aaron Holiday, I'm sure I'm missing a couple of guys, but you got that backcourt right there. That's a lot of money right there. That's a lot of money if you go and let's say we get pick 2 or 3, and then we pick the guard from Rutgers. I think you pick the guy from Rutgers. Now you got at least the next 4 years and at least $30 million, maybe more, maybe a little bit less, tied to just Reed Sheppard and the guard you drafted this year. Plus, you're going to have the Fred VanVleet contract. So a lot of it just seems like, once we figure out tonight where we pick, we'll have a lot of questions answered, which is why the Fred VanVleet contract situation hasn't been completely figured out just yet. They're waiting up until they can figure out what their plans are going to be, because there could be a Giannis trade that comes from it. There could be a Kevin Durant trade that comes from it. There could be. I was, I've been interested in a Trae Young trade, because personally, like, here's my thing. Here's my thing with the Rockets right now. This is a very good team. Okay, they're very good. They have a lot of young pieces. They have a lot of guys that can do a lot of great things. What they don't have is a lot of scoring options. Now, what I mean by that is they don't have a lot of shooters. They don't have a lot of guys that can just be bucket getters. Okay, the way I see it, we have a lot of 2-point merchants. Okay, what I mean by that is now Ime Udoka is more of a defensive coach, right? So it makes more sense for him to have a lot of 2-point merchants on his team because he's going to be like the Amen Thompsons of the world, right? He's not a shooter. I saw somebody on Twitter the other day say he's Kobe Bryant mentality with Ben Simmons skill set, and I was like, that could not be more accurate. It feels like the skill set that he possesses on top of his defensive ability is something that outweighs his inability to shoot the ball, really. But with that being said, he's extremely gifted as a rebounder. He's extremely gifted as a defender. He can, he can get to the bucket. He can play within the restricted area. So all that's great for Ime Udoka, and I think that he fits the role that Ime would like for him to be. With that being said, when you go against a team like the Warriors, who have, they're a bunch of 30-year-olds, world champions. You got Steve Kerr on the other sideline, who's, arguably you can't mention the timeline of the NBA without Steve Kerr. He's won like 9 championships between being a coach and a player. He's one of the greatest shooters. He coached one of the greatest shooter of all time shooters, if you want to throw in Clay. He was a part of so you can't really speak about the NBA without speaking about Steve Kerr. So when you throw in all of that, along with the fact that we just didn't have a bucket getter, we didn't have a guy that could, outside of, Fred for games 3 through 6 or whatever it was when he couldn't miss. And then speaking of can't missing, that makes it makes the games when we played at Golden State so much more frustrating because, they were putting up shots that I was even like, this is crazy. Like the Rockets, I think that at one point they were shooting like 90% adjusted, whatever. So, and then you go home and you lay an egg like that, you get blown out by, 15 or 20 or whatever it was at some point. So that's what makes it so frustrating when you go down 3-1 and then you bring it back home, you fight and claw your way back against, like I said, a world champion. They've been here, done that before. Now, a lot of people say this is a 2v, like even on paper initially when the clock hit 0 after game 7, I was like, this is embarrassing. Like, it's embarrassing to be a 2 seed and be in game 7 at home and get blown out like that. Now, obviously, I'm a fan. I'm a fanatic. Okay. So obviously I'm a fan, and seeing that game and the way it all went down and the whole series and how it went down. And then, you just start, I was in a text thread with my Uncle Shane, and I was telling him, I just kept getting PTSD of the 27 threes in a row. The, Dame Lillard doing the devil's work on Chandler Parsons, CP3 limping off the court. All of these things that happened, and then, Buddy Hield. All of that for the Buddy Hield to knock us out the playoffs. And it's just super frustrating. But I'll admit it, after going back and looking at it and kind of looking at everything, because, even after the game, and the days after, I was, we can have the conversation about Jalen Green. I feel like there's a conversation to be had about Jalen Green. That kind of ties back into, if you draft a guard this year, you're too deep at 2 positions. Now, I'm not that's great, but there's not a lot of space between your 2 deep. What I mean by that is at some point, all 4 of these guys that you have are going to expect to play, right? So if you have now outside of Aaron Holiday, I think that's kind of he's our bench 3-point shooter. Which why we didn't use him more in the play. I get it; he's a defensive liability, but we needed shooters. We needed guys to put the ball in the bucket. We just didn't have it. So Jalen Green, right? So Aaron Holiday, he's kind of your bench player, but between the guy you draft this year, if you draft a guard, and uh, Reed Sheppard, Jalen Green, and Fred VanVleet, those four guys, all four of those guys are going to expect to play. Fred's not going to go to the bench. Reed's coming up. He's young, so he's going to want to play. The new guy, you're going to give yourself some time with the new guy you draft. But, 2 years from now, maybe Fred's gone. And then you have Jalen, right? Jalen's going to play because he was the number, 4 overall pick or 2 overall pick, whatever. He was a top 5 pick all those years ago, 4 years ago. So he's going to expect to play. And, and now Fred didn't have, in my humble opinion, he didn't have a fantastic regular season. Average less than 15 points per game and getting paid $45 million. I don't love that math. I don't love that math. So obviously, I would think that the Rockets would decline his team option and then look to, or they would accept it and restructure. Regardless, there's going to need to be a restructure of some sort, whether that's they decline the option and sign him to a lesser deal that way, or maybe they can accept the option but restructure it and he can come back on less money. So with that being said, I'm sure I missed over a few things and kind of bounced around. That's my ADD. I had a lot of things. I've been talking to a lot of people this week just about my Uncle Shane. He's a big Rockets guy, big NBA guy. I was going to try to get him on today, but he doesn't have a camera, so we couldn't get him on. But eventually, I'm going to try to get him on because I know he's got a lot of stuff he'd like to say too, and he can call me out on my crazy takes. But with that being said, I think we're going to do a little draft simulation. It's real fast. It's one button, so there's not a whole lot to discuss. But I just want to see kind of I think I'm going to do about 10 and see kind of where the Rockets go at the highest, where they could possibly go at the lowest. And then we'll kind of probably go to the NBA draft, kind of see who the top 10 picks are and kind of where I think the Rockets could kind of go this year in the draft, starting tonight at 7 with the draft lottery. So with that being said, let's do this. Aha, here we go. Okay. So let me get this ad out the way. So here we go. So as you can see, let me reset. This is when I was doing it before I came on here because I was interested. So here we go right now. So the 1 through 10, Utah, Washington, Charlotte, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Toronto, San Antonio, Phoenix, that goes to Houston, Portland, Dallas, Chicago, Sacramento, that goes to Atlanta, and then Atlanta, that goes to San Antonio. So Atlanta's got 2 top 10 picks. That's interesting. I mean, 2 top 10 picks I'm sorry, they got, I lied. Okay, so Atlanta and San Antonio. So Atlanta's only got 1. Disregard that. Okay, so let's do this. Ready? 1, 2. See, okay, so in the things that I did earlier today, Houston's in that one position where they're almost like in no man's land. Because a lot of times they're not going to move. A lot of the teams around them are going to move, but they haven't moved in a lot of the ones that I've been doing. And that could be for any number of reasons. It's kind of interesting to me because it's mainly because the top 4 percentages, it doesn't necessarily go in order, but you could see where we're sitting in terms of, you got 26 right here and then 17. So it is kind of go in order, which is kind of puts us in no man's land because you don't have the 50%, the 42%. Really the top 6 is really where you would want to be in terms of a lottery, because those 6 are going to be the ones that kind of move the most. And I'll do it again, but I would. Here's my thing. So if the Rockets do end up picking at 9, personally, I trade out of that. Now, unless there's somebody there, because here's the thing. You already went through this with Reed Sheppard last year. Okay, Reed Sheppard didn't play. So let's say you go to the playoffs again next year, Ime Udoka has shown he's not trusting his outside of his top 7 guys, because Cam Whitmore didn't play, Aaron Holiday barely played, Jeff Green didn't play, Reed Sheppard didn't play. I'm sure I'm missing 2 or 3 guys, but he really trusts and holds on to his core 5 or 6 or 7 players. So why and you did this wait and see thing with Reed Shepherd this year. Okay. And that's not saying he's behind or anything like that. I'm sure he's going to be a great player, and he's coming along, and maybe next year him and Cam Whitmore, and Tari Eason. Now Tari Eason's a whole different conversation, but maybe those three move up basically in the circle of trust, if you will. Maybe they move up in the rings, or in the triangle of trust. Maybe they move up. But do you really want to have a top 10 pick this year and then end up having to not have this guy? So you wasted your first round pick, or because if you draft a guy in the 9, 10, 11, 12 range, that's a G League player, right? Most of the time, 90% of the time, that's a G League player, which is great. You're gonna go down there. You could have a player. There's possibility that you could have a guy next in years from now. But the Rockets, I would like to think, are past the rebuild stage, if you will. I think that they've wasted enough time. Okay, they've drafted Al P. They drafted Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore, Tari Eason. They drafted all their dudes, right? So now all of a sudden, this team is super young, and there's not a whole lot of experience on it outside of Fred. So you go and draft a young guy who's a G League player. So your team is the exact same going into next year, and there already is questions surrounding Jalen Green, right? So I think that we'll do another one here in just a second. I think that if we do end up picking at 9 or any of the ones below that, that is a tradable pick, because now I don't want Giannis. Like I said earlier, he's a 2-point merchant. The Rockets have enough of that. They have enough guys that can just bully their way into the paint and get a shot up. That's not something that I think we need more of. I think adding Giannis to this team would really, really constrict the spacing that we already struggled with, especially when Jalen Green isn't playing very well. So if you can get Jalen Green playing a little bit better, you can get some shot. You can get a shoot. Maybe Reed Shepherd comes in. He starts. That's 2 shooters. Maybe that could kind of get things going. Maybe, and then Jabari Smith. You have him. Maybe he can shoot a little bit better. So then you got some shooters, and then maybe adding a Giannis to that with adding a Giannis and Alfie front court may be a good thing. But I feel like we're done. We're past the point of maybe, in my opinion. What I mean by that is we need to go get a guarantee on the box. We need to go get a guy that can score from anywhere. Like, personally, my personal top 2 would be Devin Booker and Trae Young. Now, I know those seem like pipe dreams. I know those seem crazy. But those two, or we need, maybe there's somebody I'm not even thinking of. I'll admit it. Maybe there's somebody I'm not even thinking of. And if you can think of something, if you can think of somebody that would fit the Rockets timeline in terms of they're not 37 like a Kevin Durant, but they're also not worth $50 million like Devin Booker, which is kind of a hard place, that's a hard shop to shop in. There's not a lot of guys that are young, playing well, and aren't worth a whole lot. That's a hard play. The Rockets are really kind of are finding themselves in a really difficult position roster-wise, just because they have so many dudes that they want to hold, like Jalen Green. Jalen Green, what just happened? What's going on? Oh, my battery's about to die already. My computer's about to die. That's crazy. So you got Jalen Green. I think I'm gonna have to move to this computer thing camera so my computer doesn't die. Not because I'm using my phone camera. Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about now. But yeah, so Jalen Green was a big topic of conversation, and for a lot of right reasons. But before I have to make some quick movements here to fix what's going on, let's do one more and see what happens here. Let's reset. Okay. See, Rockets again at 9. Rockets again at 9. And then they fall. But then you got, Philadelphia and Dallas. If Philadelphia and Dallas get 1 and 2, I'm gonna be pissed. Okay, I'm gonna be pissed. See, okay, here we go. And then here's one where Houston gets number 2. You listen. If you get a number, if they get number 2, that would be I think because obviously Cooper Flag's going 1. And I know I just went through a whole diatribe about why we shouldn't draft a guard. But then I feel like I'm kind of eating out of speaking of both sides of my mouth, because you need a shooter, but I don't want to necessarily get a guard. But then you talk about could you I know a lot of people would not want to do this, but could you package Jalen and maybe Cam and 2 first for another forward, a high quality forward, and then you can also, I don't know. So there seems to be a lot of things that the Rockets could do, depending on where they pick. I'm obviously tomorrow I'll go live tomorrow, and we can talk about kind of where things ended up slotting, react to that. Let's see. Yeah, see. Oh wait, let me reset. Yeah, see, we're hovering right around 9, 10, 11, and that makes me nervous. That makes me nervous because it also gives the pick that the Rockets have less value. And now if there's a team that would like to go into a full rebuild, then maybe picking in the top 10 regardless of where it is would be a good pick. But trading with now if you traded with Atlanta, because Atlanta already has one, so you could tell Atlanta, like, hey, you want 2 first-round picks? I'll give you this. I'll give you our first-round pick this year, our first-round pick next year, and and maybe throw in. Now I think you probably have to throw in Reed Shepherd, because I think that his money, the money on his deal, I think, unless I know he could come along, and because when we drafted him, you see he's a very good shooter, and slightly is a pretty solid defender too. So I think maybe package a Reed Shepherd first-round pick and Cam Whitmore, and then or maybe Atari Eason. So like they have a lot of options. They have a lot of options on where they could go. But I don't know. If drafting a guard is the right thing to do. Let's see. Let's look at NBA. So okay, so we're gonna do. Let's go. I want to walk through. So this is CBS's. Hold on. Okay, let's go click on this one real quick. Show on stage. Remove. Right. All right. Let's see. Is it popping up? Not now. Okay. So yeah. So this is CBS's. Let's see, when was this? How recent is this? Okay, so yesterday, I think. Yeah. So obviously Cooper Flag won. Obviously this one I would like more than 33% from 3-point range. But nonetheless, You got Dylan Harper, and then good old Trae Young from the University of Texas, 40%. See, that's a little bit better. I think a Trae Young, 6'6", 190, gives you the length, athleticism that Ime Udoka seems to like. Could be a very good defender, also a very good 3-point shooter. So if the Rockets get anywhere in the top 3, I'm cool with any of those 3. Let's see. It seems like, and Knuppel was somebody that I had been hearing that would, if the Rockets were to fall and he falls at the same time, that would be something they'd be interested in. Oh, you know what? Give me about 5 seconds to fix this. I think I can fix it. I think I can fix it. All right. I'm going to loop the
Packs are in your ears, boy. 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 Packs are in your ears, boy.
Sit tight while I fix this. It's going to get a little bit weird. Yo. Oh, there we go. I'm really glad that I figured out how long was I really hope that mute wasn't muted the whole time. Okay. Now let me make sure everything is good. Audio. Oh yeah. There we go. We're back at it like a crack addict, baby. Okay. So now I don't have to be as in a rush because my computer's charging, everything's fine, and mic's connected, phone's still connected. We're all good. So yeah. So as I was saying, I appreciate you if you stuck around, and that was annoying. I know I'm still figuring out the whole setup thing. So that's a hair. Bear with me. Anyways, so yeah, like I was saying, Concanupple, that's a name that I've heard pop up a lot recently as somebody the Rockets would be interested in. He's deadly with the three, 40.6%, 15 points a game. Again, that's a forward, so he adds that, that 6'7", 217, bigger type dude. Let's see, actually, how big is, so, excuse me, he's a little bit smaller than Cooper Flagg, maybe not as offensively gifted, but technically is a better shooter. Just putting that out there. Let's see. That's really so like right now this has us picking Jeremiah Fears out of Oklahoma, and this is what I don't under this is what doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't understand why we have played a whole season with struggling. We were better defensively for sure, better a defensive team, and yet we're gonna draft a somebody who's not a very good shooter. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. It feels like they're pigeonholing a little bit. Maybe putting a little bit too much stock into Ime Udoka and his defensive style, because ultimately, if his downfall as a coach is gonna be if things don't go great, his downfall is gonna be the offense. You can see it from a mile away now. We're all happy right now. We're all super excited because we have a great defense and it's fun basketball to watch in the sense that they're not letting nobody in the paint. They're playing. They're doing, because there was a point when you're watching there was a point when I was watching the Rockets game. The Rockets, who do we have at forward? It's going to be, so the thing is like Alperen Sengun is technically going to be a center in what the Rockets want to do. But he is he's a tweener between a center and a forward. But you got Jabari Smith, Dylan Brooks, Tari Eason, Jeff Green. I'm sure I'm missing a bigger one. So and Dylan Brooks, I haven't even talked about Dylan Brooks yet. I haven't even got to that yet. Look, Dylan Brooks was great he did what we needed him to do. And the one good thing about him is his contract, the Dylan Brooks contract is front loaded. So basically he gets cheaper as the contract goes on, which is they probably did it on purpose. You get him his money while he's technically still good. And then as he kind of, pans out or, peters out throughout his career, the back half of that contract does get less. So maybe there's a world where you could transition him to the bench, but I don't see that a whole lot. Just because I don't see that. I don't see, that's not his persona. You can't be a villain that plays on the bench, right? That's just, then you just suck, right? So, so yeah, that's the situation at forward. And a lot of those guys seem like Tari Eason is movable, in my opinion. He didn't play very well. Jabari Smith, I don't want to move him. I like him a lot. I think he brings a lot of good things. I think he's stretch four, can stretch the floor, can shoot the three. can get down in the paint, can get rebounds. Maybe a little bit of a liability defensively. Maybe needs a little bit of help there. But I would like to keep him. And then I guess I don't know if Amin Thompson is a forward or a guard. I would think he's I don't know, because a lot of times the Rockets would run a 3-guard set. It'd be Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, and Amin Thompson, and then you'd have Alfred Şengün, and then you'd have a mixture of any of the 3, Steven Adams, Tari Eason, or Jabari Smith. Any of those 3 could play the other. That was kind of the flow of which the Rockets would play. So if you could get somebody now, I would also be interested in, and let's see. Now again, this kind of goes against what I was saying earlier, but I would be interested in a center. Because that way, because you could do the 2 big lineup if Steven Adams doesn't come back. Then you could do the 2 big lineup, because we don't even really have a 2 big lineup as is normally called. Because you have Alfred Şengün, and he's like not really a center. Like I said, he's a tweener. He's not really a center. He's not really a guard. So I think, or not really a forward. Sorry, not guard. So if you get a center that can match up with Alfred Şengün, and maybe because Steven Adams may be getting up there in terms of his age and his career, so you may need to start thinking about finding somebody who can do the same stuff as him. So that way it makes it a little bit easier later on. Okay. So according to this, wait, I wasn't sharing. I'm not sharing it anymore. Okay. There we go. So if the Rockets were to do, if this, hold on, let me reset. See, yeah, I'm telling you, about 80 to 90% of the time, the Rockets have been picking about in the 9 or 10 area. And I think depending on how the draft falls, that could be a very tradable pick. And if you do trade that pick, do you get a Trae Young? Do you get an Anthony Simmons? Do you get a Giannis? Do you get a KD? Do you try to get a Devin Booker if you can pry him away? There's a lot of options, and I think we'll find out a lot more tonight here in 6.5 hours or so. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. I know I said I was probably gonna get into some other stuff, but I think I got out a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk about in terms of the Rockets, and I did about 40 minutes. It's a little bit longer than I was hoping to. So please like, comment, subscribe. I hope you liked it. I know the view isn't that great with my closet, but please come back. Come hang out with me. I'm probably gonna, maybe not tonight. I may do a small video tonight, a reaction video. Nothing super crazy, probably about 10 or so minutes. And then tomorrow, after doing some research and talking to people and kind of getting my own opinions, I'll probably go live tomorrow and do the kind of the whole shebang, and then I'll really get into the NFL, the NBA, the Astros. I don't know. I don't even know where to start with them right now. Longhorns. It's the off season right now. I guess we could touch a little bit on that. Not a whole lot going on right there. It's recruiting season. It's talking season. So, as the days go on, I'll start thinking of things. Start thinking of stuff I wanted to talk about, and kind of get this channel off the ground again. So, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends, and everybody have a blessed day. And to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day late. I know Mother's Day was yesterday, so I didn't get to say it to everybody, but happy Mother's Day to everybody out there, and to the fathers who play mom, and everybody else, grandmas who play mom, grandpas who play mom. So everybody have a great rest of your day, and I will see y'all later this evening and tomorrow. So have a great rest of y'all's evening, and go Rockets.
I ain't with that beefing on the net. Tell me what's next. Tell me what's next. I can't listen to the hype. Wanna know that you've been mixed with lies. Love it like your favorite cocktail.